The Bulls feel like they have been rebuilding for quite some time. They were supposed to tank last season, then they won too many games to do that. They've had crazy lows this year. They lost a game by more than 50 points. They have had some highs with some nice wins. How long do you think it will be before this team actually turns the corner?
I like their three guys right now, the young guys. I like Markkanen. Lavine is emerging as a great scorer, and Otto Porter's played well for them. But I don't trust these late season surges in games that don't mean anything. We see teams do it, a couple of teams every year in the NBA. We think it's the stepping stone to the next season, and it's not.
Ever since the breakup of the Bulls dynasty, Chicago's always been this place where they struggle to get free agents, even though it's a great city and it's a marquee market and all those things.
So I have been following Zach Levine for quite some time. He went to UCLA during the time I was there. Go Bruins if you're a Bruin. And I just found his game to be very fascinating. He was so athletic. He had the ability to shoot the ball, yet we for some reason didn't play him very much at UCLA. But that didn't matter. Everyone knew he was a lottery pick, and in the 2014 NBA draft, he was selected number 13 overall in a draft class that was supposed to be one of the most star-studded draft classes in NBA history. But we all know that didn't really end up happening. Andrew Wiggins is, well, Andrew Wiggins. Jabari Parker ended up blowing out both of his knees, and Joel Embiid, who was supposed to be the most injury-prone player in that class, ended up being the crown jewel of the class. Other than that, there aren't really that many great players in that class other than, say, Aaron Gordon and Julius Randle and Nikola Jokic in the second round. But other than that, that was a fairly disappointing draft class. But the Minnesota Timberwolves were able to come out of it with two phenomenal players. Well, at least two athletic, very high potential players. Zach Levine and Andrew Wiggins were considered to be two high-flying superstar caliber players if they met their potential. And at the very worst, you have two athletic freaks that could actually shoot the ball or develop their shot. And although we all know what ends up happening to Andrew Wiggins, he's trending towards draft bust territory despite having a colossal contract. Zach Levine is starting to gain the upper hand on his fellow 2014 former Minnesota Timberwolves running mate. And here's the thing about Zach Levine's game that personally really just captivated all of us. He is an athletic freak of nature, and he still is an athletic freak of nature. This is despite him tearing an ACL in the 2017 NBA season. Well, 2016 to 2017 NBA season. We saw him put on one of the greatest dunk contests we've seen over the past 5 years against Aaron Gordon, and honestly, I haven't really watched a dunk contest since then. I personally became very bored by the dunk contest because, well, it just seemed very theatrical. Zach Levine and Aaron Gordon really recaptured the essence of that dunk contest, and it was in part due to both of their athleticism. Now, he ends up tearing his ACL at the end of the 2017 season on February 4th, 2017 to be exact. But prior to this, he was actually experiencing quite a breakout season. In the 2016 to 2017 season, he averaged 18.9 points per game, which was a significant markup from 14 points per game the year prior and 10 points per game in his rookie season. And what the Minnesota Timberwolves thought was, okay, he peaked. He tore his ACL and he peaked. So there's really no point in keeping him around. There's no way he's going to be the same player. He was mainly playing based off of his athleticism, and honestly, I don't blame the Timberwolves for thinking that, because Zach Levine's game was based off of his athleticism, and he was very fun to watch. But what ends up happening next is something that completely blew my mind. He gets traded to the Chicago Bulls alongside Lauri Markkanen and Chris Dunn, which at the time, I criticized the trade for the Timberwolves. I felt like this was a horrible trade for the Timberwolves because the Timberwolves were receiving Jimmy Butler, And I still felt like even though they were getting Jimmy Butler, they've given up way too many assets. Zach Levine, Chris Dunn, and the 7th pick. Like, come on, you get to like at least get 2 out of those 3. But again, Tom Thibodeau's era in Minnesota wasn't the most forward-thinking era. In fact, most of the players that he acquired during his time there were the same players that he had when he was the head coach of the Chicago Bulls. So I found that this was very ironic. He was just trying to reattain his star player from that era, which makes no sense. I know I'm kind of digressing over here, but it makes really no sense considering the fact that they were successful, but that team was built. The Chicago Bulls during his like first tenure with them were built upon the shoulders of Derrick Rose, and he was injured then. But anyways, I digress. He ends up getting traded to the Chicago Bulls, and honestly, the Chicago Bulls won the hell out of that trade because we know what ends up happening. The beginning of last season, Jimmy Butler leaves the Timberwolves, and the Chicago Bulls get Chris Dunn, who's very meh, but again, he was a prospect at the time. Zach Levine, who many people thought that were just writing him off because of his career and his ACL injury, and of course Lauri Markkanen, which I think it was a great addition. He's starting to look really, really good recently. Now Zach Levine goes to Chicago, and he ends up surprising a lot of people. He goes to Chicago and he averages 16.7 points per game in his first season, but his second season was what blew our minds. He only played 24 games in the first season, and that was enough for Chicago to sign him to a huge contract. It was a 4-year, he received a 4-year, $80 million offer sheet with the Sacramento Kings. And to all of our surprise, the Chicago Bulls decided to match that. So a lot of us were really confused because there was such a small sample size of him coming back from this ACL injury, and the Chicago Bulls were still like, hey, we've seen enough. 24 games is more than enough for us to see. We're going to match this offer sheet. And a lot of people criticized that. A lot of people thought that it was a horrible decision, but guess what? It was a very good freaking decision because the year after, on a Chicago Bulls team that is still fairly up and coming, let's be honest. They're not killing it yet. They're not really doing much, but 1, they're in the Eastern Conference. 2, it seems like they're building their team correctly. Lauri Markkanen's a great addition. They were able to get themselves Kobe White at the point guard position, so now Zach Levine could focus mainly on scoring. In the past year, something you should know is his player efficiency rating shot up in his first full year with the Chicago Bulls to an 18.7 PER. Prior to that, he was at about a 14.6 PER, and his usage remained more or less the same. It was a 29.5 in his first year with Chicago. It was a 30.5 last year, and he was able to put up 23 points per game. Now, why am I telling you all of this? Because Zach Levine was able to retain his bounce despite going through one of the most gruesome injuries in the NBA. In my opinion, this is the second most gruesome injury that a player could go through. A torn ACL could potentially sap you of all of your athleticism. You could potentially never be the same again. And again, a torn Achilles, in my opinion, is the, oh my goodness, this guy's career's over injury if your game is based off of athleticism. Hey, John Wall. So anyways, what I'm trying to say is check out Zach Levine's workout routine. If you're trying to up your vert or trying to learn how to dunk, or you're just trying to add some inches to your vertical, if there's some guy that you should be modeling your workouts after, it is this guy. And that is what we are showing you guys today. Zach Levine, as a fitness enthusiast myself, I'm not gonna lie, I don't really play basketball, but I do a lot of weight training. If you guys follow me on Instagram, my personal Instagram, you guys see me doing the douchey gym selfies all the time. This is a guy whose workout routine you want to follow. He actually has some very interesting variations to classic workouts, such as this leg press on a I forgot what the ball is called. I don't really use it. I think it's a Benson ball. I forget what it's called, but the reason I like this workout is the issue with the leg press is it adds a lot of strain to your lower back. But when you attach this ball to it, not only do you add an uncomfortable form of tension or an unpredictable form of tension to the workout, but you also reduce the strain on your back. You can see he's also lowering it very slowly and raising it very quickly. He also doesn't sleep on stretching and yoga routines. He does a variation of the downward dog on the ball, and I think workouts like this could really take your vertical to the very next level. Let me know what you guys think about Zach Levine's workout, and let me know if you guys want me to dive into any other workout routines on this channel. Besides that, guys, I'm your boy, The Flight Mike, and I'll catch you guys later.